welcome to Absurd Entertainment. We got another interesting piece of content that we're checking out here, and this is by the channel SideProjects. This is 4 out-of-place artifacts that shouldn't have existed. I think I've seen a video or 2 on this channel before, or at least listened to it while I was, playing games and everything like that. But let's just go ahead and get into this. We got one about the British penny, the London hammer, the Kim artifacts. I've never even heard of those. I've never heard of the British penny either, and the Seum. I don't know what that is. So yeah, we're about to learn some interesting things. Without further ado, let's go ahead and get into this intro and see what's up.
The topic of out-of-base objects is a highly contentious one. These supposed impossible discoveries are often used by ancient astronaut theorists and others in areas of fringe science to support their beliefs. Sometimes it is an obvious hoax, like the 2012 art piece Babylonkia, a clay tablet shaped like an old Nokia phone with Babylonian numerals. Although the artist didn't intend it to be a hoax.
That was absolutely ridiculous. Somebody actually tried to do that. Look at this thing. Look at it. Come on, what are we even talking about here? This is dude. Can somebody please tell me what you need to do to even be able to make this? Like, you just find a burnt ass phone, in a junkyard or a dump somewhere, and then you're just like, oh, let's put some cuneiform or something like that on here, and then, we'll go ahead and post it on the internet, and we'll make people lose their minds. I mean, it's a solid strategy if it ended up working out for them, but, I don't know. That thing is ridiculous. You really got to be thinking out of the box to do something like that. I applaud the creativity.
Tablet shaped like an old Nokia phone with Babylonian numerals. Although the artist didn't intend it to be a hoax, others later used photographs of the sculpture to claim the discovery of an ancient cell phone. However, many out-of-place artifacts are genuine in nature, even if not in interpretation. And today we're going to look at 4 artifacts that many believe should not have existed, as well as the alternative explanations from mainstream scientists and historians.
Okay. Thank you for going over this with us, Mr. Simon Whistler. What a name. The main penny. Okay, I thought it was called the British penny. All right, I'm assuming it's probably nicknamed that. Chapter 1, the main penny. Let's check it out.
It was the fall of 1956, and amateur archaeologist Guy Melgren had traveled to the coastal city of Brooklyn, Maine. His goal was to locate and excavate a shell midden, essentially a Native American dumping ground for shells and bones that can be used to study dietary habits of past settlements. Instead, Guy came across a stranger by the name of Goddard, and Goddard offered to let Guy excavate on his shoreline property. Every summer, Guy would return to Goddard's site to excavate, with over 30,000 artifacts being discovered in total. The majority of these were stone artifacts, but there was a single corroded coin discovered amongst the other items. Guy wasn't particularly interested in coins, so he didn't think a lot of it. Eventually, he had a numismatist friend of his examine it, and it was declared that the coin was a British penny from the 12th century. Now, this should have already been a major discovery, as a medieval coin from...
So the story is the main penny. It was a British penny. Got it. Okay.
England appearing in the United States would certainly require a little bit of explaining, but like we said, Guy wasn't particularly interested in coins. He basically saw it as a neat trinket that he could show off to friends or schoolchildren. However, an article was written in 1978 regarding the coin and its provenance that brought it to the public's attention. People began discussing the possibility that the British had visited America before Christopher Columbus and debated the implications of such a discovery.
Hello everybody, I just wanted to take a moment to tell you about
Not gonna do that.
Was actually a Norse silver coin minted during the reign of Olaf Kjær, most likely between 1067 and 1080. This was a huge development, as all other claims of Viking artifacts being found within the United States have been proven to be hoaxes or forgeries. The main penny, on the other hand, has been confirmed to be an authentic Norse coin from the 11th century.
Boom.
There is no debate over the authenticity of the coin, which could have major implications. It's well established that the Vikings traveled to what they called Vinland, an area encompassing northern Newfoundland and Labrador, Canada.
If you guys don't know, go check out the anime Vinland Saga. It's dope as hell, and it's an interesting take on, things like that. Obviously completely fictional, but pretty sweet. Definitely go take a look at that for sure.
However, Leif Erikson landed there around 1000 AD, and the settlements were short-lived. It's believed that Vikings only settled on the North American continent for about a decade max, likely due to disagreements with the indigenous people. It's also believed that these settlements never extended nearly as far south as the United States. So, how exactly did this coin appear in Maine? Is it possible that these settlements lasted much longer than previously believed, and they extended further down the American coast? Theoretically, yeah, it's possible, but historians believe that there's a more likely explanation. Okay. Just because the coin was found at the Goddard site doesn't mean that the Norse ever set foot there. Sure. Evidence shows that the site was a hub of a large Native American trade network, meaning that
the Native Americans would travel up north to a different trading hub. They would bring some of the coin and other items down with them back into the, realm of the United States.
The coin could have been brought there from Newfoundland. This is supported by the fact that of the 30,000 artifacts excavated from the Goddard site, the main penny is the only one of Norse origin. The Goddard site was dated to between 1180 and 1235, during which time the Olaf Kyrre silver coins would have still been in circulation. That period is also while the Norse controlled Greenland, so it's possible that they made trading voyages to North America. When the main penny was found, it also had a perforation, showing that it likely was being worn as a pendant. While that area of the coin has since fallen off due to corrosion, the coin being fashioned as a pendant increases the likelihood that it would have been of interest to traders. Despite the fact that the coin is indisputably authentic, whether or not this is proof that Vikings traveled to the United States is a much larger source of debate. There is even discussion as to whether or not the main penny was actually found at the Goddard site at all. There's an amateur
I've seen numerous different things, this is in the 12th century. So they were in, what are we in the 20th century? Yeah, okay. So as early as the 10th century, we have, according to recent research, the earliest Vikings to reach North America arrived in 1021 AD. So, yeah. And mind you, this is at Leonce Ox Meadows in Newfoundland, Canada, or Newfoundland, but yeah, Newfoundland. So yeah, as early as 1021 AD, these guys were coming here, and this is in the 12th century. You know what I mean? So definitely heard about that before, as far as them being able to get to the continent is concerned.
Archaeologist Guy didn't do an amazing job of recording the specific circumstances of the majority of his finds at the Goddard site. It's reported that he simply wrote the letter C on a map showing the approximate area where the coin was found, with no other notes, as he wasn't particularly interested in coins. But assuming Guy's story was true, it does leave a lot of unanswered questions that have been the subject of debate. Even if the Vikings never traveled to Maine, the existence of this coin at the Goddard site indicates that they were continuing to travel to North America much later than was previously believed.
Yep. Chapter 2, the London Hammer. Now, I think I have at least, seen some kind of maybe clip video, some kind of 60-second video about this maybe in the past. Hard to recall. Not enough for me to be able to be like, yeah, I know what that is. So let's go ahead and get into this one. This one should be fairly interesting, right?
The London Hammer is one of many out-of-place artifacts that have similar origin stories. Whether it's the London Hammer, the Dorchester Pot, or the Costco artifact, these clearly man-made items have all been discovered encased in stone that allegedly formed hundreds of thousands, if not millions of years ago. According to the story, the London Hammer was first discovered by Emma and Max Hahn while they were walking along Red Creek in London, Texas in 1936. As they strolled down the river, the couple saw a wooden handle sticking out of a loose rock. The rock formation dated to the Lower Cretaceous period, over 100 million years ago, so the couple brought the unusual rock back home with them.
Let me just run that back really quick. What the heck? How long ago?
A wooden handle sticking out of a loose rock. The rock formation dated to the Lower Cretaceous period, over
the Lower Cretaceous period. Okay, so we're talking. Yeah, that's a really, really, really long time ago. I figured if it was just made out of maybe like stone, and at least the wood in its entirety would either be completely, I guess, fossilized or whatever. There's another term for it. I honestly think at that point it would be completely disintegrated, but I guess not. But it would be, yeah. That's crazy. Let's just get back into it. I'm opening my mouth before we have enough information.
Over 100 million years ago, so the couple brought the unusual rock back home with them. They had been curious enough to take the mysterious rock home, but not curious enough to do anything with it. The rock sat at their house undisturbed for the next decade until their son broke it open to find out what secrets it was hiding. Inside the rock, attached to the wooden handle, was an iron hammerhead. The hammer was roughly 6 inches long, 1 inch wide, and clearly man-made. So, how could stone that was over 100 million years old have formed around this man-made tool? Was this evidence not only that humans and human technology are much older than previously believed, but that humans once coexisted with dinosaurs? Well, no, probably not, because it took nearly 40 more years for the London hammer.
That would be exactly what I would want to have happen. Just like shit in the face of all biblical thought processes and everything about us being here for only 12,000, 13,000 years or something stupid. That's just ridiculous.
It's not only that humans and human technology are much older than previously believed, but that humans once coexisted with dinosaurs? Well, no, probably not, because it took nearly 40 more years for the London hammer to gain any real notoriety. It wasn't until 1983, when young Earth creationist Carl Baugh purchased the hammer for his Creation Evidence Museum, that it really started gathering attention. According to Baugh, the London hammer was an important pre-flood artifact, and its presence embedded in Cretaceous rock was proof that evolution was wrong, and the Cretaceous period was not nearly as long ago as mainstream scientists wanted everyone to believe. That's certainly one interpretation of what was going on, though geologists have a much different explanation. According to them, a concretion had formed around the hammer. It's a common process similar to what occurs in a petrifying well. This would mean that highly soluble minerals in the ancient limestone where the hammer was found had formed around the object, a relatively quick process that can take place in only a few decades or sometimes even only a few years. This would certainly explain how modern the hammer appeared, looking nearly identical to hammers used by late 19th century miners in that part of the US. This explanation becomes even more likely when we examine similar objects, such as the Kosso artifact. The Kosso artifact was a spark plug purportedly discovered inside a 500,000-year-old geode. However, when the supposed geode, actually just a concretion, was cut open, the spark plug was identified as being a 1920s Champion brand device rather than the work of prehistoric engineers or alien intervention.
The Quimbaya artifacts. Is that how you say that? Did I just butcher that? Let me see this. Oh, I guess we're about to find out.
Though probably not as famous as the Saqqara bird, the Quimbaya artifacts, also referred to as the Quimbaya jets, are a series of gold figurines shaped like birds, insects, or possibly airplanes made by the Quimbaya civilization. The Quimbaya were a pre-Columbian civilization in modern-day Colombia. It's believed that their civilization began in the 1st century AD, though the lack of a written language makes this difficult to know for certain. The Quimbaya artifacts are dated to around 1000 AD, and they're intricate figures made of an alloy of gold and copper known as tumbaga. This alloy has a lower melting point than either gold or copper alone, making it more malleable, but it is also harder than either.
It's pretty awesome to even see the level of intricacy and design that went into these things, man. These guys, they are putting in work, straight effort.
The metal. These properties make it ideal for the sort of highly detailed metalwork that exists in these artifacts. Unfortunately, the origin of the Quimbaya artifacts forces a great deal of speculation. Not only did the people leave behind no written records, but we aren't even sure where these figures came from. Rather than being discovered through traditional archaeological means, they were the subject of looting in the 1800s. Their existence is only known now because somebody turned in 123 of these figures to the Colombian authorities.
Damn, 123. Where do you even end up finding that many of them in the first place? Do you go around and gather those up? Are they all in one little bundle? Nice little neat bag with a bow and, you know, some wrapping paper around it? Like, what does one do to acquire the amount that he's referring to here in the video? I want to know. I need the lore on that, 100%. Find me a video on the Quimbaya artifacts or some lore or something. Put it in the comments below.
Prevailing opinion among archaeologists is that they were all looted from 2 specific tombs, but we can't know that for sure. This uncertainty removes some of the valuable context that could be used to help determine their exact purpose. As for the artifacts themselves, they depict highly stylized versions of an array of different creatures. There are birds and insects, as we mentioned, as well as frogs, lizards, and anthropomorphized characters. But for fans of out-of-place artifacts, these figurines look far too much like airplanes to ignore. Many of these golden trinkets, which were 2 to 5 inches in length, contained triangular wings and vertical tails, highly reminiscent of modern flying machines. Or perhaps ancient flying machines. Convinced that the Kimbaya artifacts couldn't be anything other than model airplanes, 2 German men, Peter Belting and Konrad Lubbers, created scale models of the same figures in 19...
Oh, I was about to say that's how big they are. Holy crap, what the hell? But no, they just recreated those. Okay. Ooh, I was about to lose my mind. I'm like, how do you get 123 of those together? But never mind.
1994. They affixed engines to their models to turn them into radio-controlled airplanes, and their flight tests were successful. For many, this was proof positive that the Kimbaya had advanced knowledge of flying machines. However, mainstream archaeologists, those spoil sports, are less convinced. Those that want to believe these were depictions of airplanes tend to ignore the existence of the full breadth of figurines that were found. While it's true that those depicting birds and insects appeared capable of flight, those depicting frogs and turtles absolutely weren't. Acknowledging the existence of these other artifacts weakens the argument that they had to be ancient airplanes, as the presence of other stylized animals would make it much more likely that they are just stylized birds.
Yeah, but are they stylized birds? I'm going to subscribe to the airplane theory because that's just more interesting to me. But yeah, they're probably birds. But I like the airplane idea a whole lot better. Yeah, go hit the like button if you like the airplane idea a whole lot better. I'd like to think that a lot of these ancient civilizations actually had some form of advanced technology to some degree. You know, it just makes things more interesting. You know, and until I have definitive, like 100% ironclad, sure, you could have the regular, you know, status quo of what archaeologists and people in that community think, sure, and what they have more facts based on rather than speculation, you know what I mean? But ultimately, at the end of the day, I'm going to pick the more interesting one of the two options here 100% of the time.
Birds. And of course, it's no coincidence that the golden figurines of these creatures would have aerodynamic properties. Birds and flying insects are, in fact, aerodynamic. Shocking, we know. Hence why they can fly. It's no surprise that an artistic recreation of such creatures would exhibit those very same properties. And because these figurines were made with a highly malleable gold alloy, the sculptors were able to more accurately capture the features of flying creatures that made them aerodynamic. It's also not a coincidence that Kimbaya artifacts and modern-day planes would look similar. Some people just have it backwards. The bird sculptures don't look like airplanes. Airplanes look like birds, which is by design. When humans were trying to build the first flying machines, they spent a lot of time studying birds. After all, birds have been flying around for ages.
Yeah,
so,
know,
I mean, it was natural we'd want to copy what they were doing.
Sure, that checks out. That does check out. Yeah, 100%. Is this another Kimbaya artifacts? Or no?
And action.
This is so exciting!
The last thing I saw was parrots.
The Cephalotherium is a member of the giraffe family, though with its antlers and short neck, it looks a lot more like a moose than a giraffe. It also went extinct about 1 million years ago. At least that's what we always believed. It's certainly what the fossil record seems to show, as no fossils of the creature have been found that could be dated to more recent than that. However, this assumption was thrown into question in 1928 when the remains of a war chariot were discovered during an archaeological excavation of ancient Kish in modern-day Iraq. Alongside the broken chariot and skeletal horse was a rather unusual and distinct piece of bronze work, a rein ring that had been once part of the chariot. These rings served to protect the reins from getting tangled, though they were frequently topped with sculptures similar to a car's hood ornament. In this case, the sculpture in question
that checks out. Look, it's the moose, or the Siam.
Was of a four-legged, horned mammal. The bronze animal had a ring through its nose, and a rope was connected from the ring to its leg. Initially, it was reported that the animal in question was likely a Persian fallow deer, and the longer, multi-pronged antlers had simply...
Nope, not that. Nope, doesn't even look like that. Doesn't have the body shape of it. That just could be bad sculpting, but I mean, we're talking about somebody who's sculpting things on top of, you know, leash handles for chariots. I don't think they're going to pick just any old Joe Schmo off the street who sits there and plays with clay. You know what I'm saying?
Broken off the figurine, leaving the impression that it still had horns instead of antlers. But after being examined by Edwin Colbert in 1936, he described it as a late surviving and at least partially domesticated Sievertherium. The piece of bronze, dated to around 2800 BC, is obviously much more recent than the 1 million years ago when this species is believed to have gone extinct. Edwin agreed that the statue was obviously broken, but he drew attention to two knobs on the animal's head that were present on the Sievertherium, but not on the Persian fallow deer. This wasn't the only potential evidence of late surviving Sievertherium either. Cave paintings from around 8,000 years ago, found in India and the Sahara, seemed to depict an animal that resembled this ancient giraffe. Despite the lack of fossil evidence and the existence of artistic license, the possibility couldn't be entirely ruled out. In both the paintings and the rain ring, the proportions of the depicted animals resembled a Sievertherium more closely than anything else.
Yeah.
For 50 years, it seemed like nothing would put this debate to rest. But then, in 1977, a discovery was made entirely by chance. German archaeologist Michael Müller-Karp was visiting the Field Museum of Natural History, where the artifact was located. Michael was in the museum storeroom when his eyes were drawn to a small box of dried mud. Inside the box, encrusted in mud, he discovered two branch fragments resembling green coral. These fragments fit perfectly onto the rain ring ornament, revealing themselves to be the broken-off antlers. Yet, this still wasn't the end of the debate.
Wow.
The fact
What?
that the animal had antlers rather than horns made it unlikely to be a Sievertherium, but it didn't perfectly resemble a Persian fallow deer either. After the figure was restored in 1985, it was newly identified as being a Caspian red deer. While it is far more likely for the figure to be a depiction of a deer rather than a Sievertherium, particularly because it is known that they have been domesticated at least to some extent, it still isn't conclusive. It also doesn't help determine whether the cave paintings were depicting Sievertherium or some other animal. Unless fossils are discovered that prove the ancient giraffes actually survived until 5,000 years ago, we may never be able to come to a complete consensus on exactly when they went extinct. All we can say for certain is that, well, it's definitely extinct now.
Boo. I don't want these things to be extinct, man. I like the more interesting side of things, guys. Yeah, great information. Cool videos right here. Definitely going to have to subscribe to that channel. That's SideProjects. If you guys want to learn something, don't be lame. Get over there, knock it out, hit the like button on that one for sure. And yeah, that was super interesting. Let's keep it, sometimes it'll be interesting, sometimes it'll be historical, whatever it is. The content's going to be all over the place, bound to get something that you guys like or would be interested in. Go ahead and let me know in the comments below what you guys thought about the video and what you would like to see next, if anything is, in the realm of the interesting or the unordinary, you know what I mean? And while you're down there, hit that subscription button, ding that notification bell, and select all to stay up to date on more videos that we got coming. Appreciate it. Catch you on the next one.